What's up, folks? And you've probably seen plenty of these, but there's really big news. As of today, Baldur's Gate patch number 5 is live as of November 30th. We'll see if I get this video up in time for that to be true. I have installed it. Long story short, it takes 130 gigabytes of unused disk space to install a 30 gigabyte patch just because it uses a lot of temporary files and moves stuff around a lot. Don't know the technical reasons for that, but I'm sure there are reasons for it. If that space is an issue, Larian recommends uninstalling completely and then uninstalling the game and reinstalling the game. From what I have read, you can do that without losing your save files, but it is of course a gamble. Now, a couple quick things I wanted to go ahead and dive into this with. So I had some real quick questions on this. I have not played very deep, so there are some spoilers in this that we're going to cover. But a couple key things that I wanted to see is, since I was early in the game, is this patch something I should restart my playthrough for? Since I'm just kind of middling in Act 1, I don't even know how much I have left, but I'm probably like a third way of the way through Act 1. I wanted to see if there were just any major character creation things that were issues or early game decisions. And there are some. So there are some things that are going to impact my current playthroughs, but not enough to justify a restart. I will say the bulk of the changes to story are mostly in Act 3 and Act 2. There's a lot of performance improvements to Act 3, especially things like how it works on certain consoles. I believe PS5 had some issues. And then things like there was a pretty well-known bug about lagginess from if you were stealing a lot of things or being being mischievous a lot in Act 3. Apparently it could chug pretty aggressively. And then we'll go through some of the biggest pieces of news. They've added an entire playable epilogue, which, as I understand it, is actually an entirely new chapter of the game that was just added that you may have never seen before. So if you're close to the end of Act 3, you are probably in for a treat that not many people have seen yet. And then also they've added 2 new difficulty modes. So they're adding a legendary or heroic mode that is harder than the previous hardest one. And then they've added a custom game mode that we don't know much about yet, but we'll go ahead and take a look into that too. So yes, I am going to go ahead and just sort of stream through these and read this and really highlight the sass of the patch notes that make it worth reading. Absolutely love Larian's attitude on that. Again, this is your official spoiler warning. That was the key part I wanted to go there. Install size, it is live today. You don't need to restart your playthrough unless you're fairly deep into Act 2, if I'm not mistaken. There is a lot of new additional content. And then some of the other things that they've added are some pretty significant performance tweaks. They've done promises like they've removed some things that were running in the background that were slowing the game down quite a bit. And then they said they streamlined or made the engine more efficient. So people like me with potato computers who were having some performance issues occasionally should see much smoother and cleaner performance, which I'm pretty excited about. Oh, I almost forgot like the biggest news. To other people, the biggest news, they have fixed Astarian's kiss. That's cool for you Astarian romancers. Enjoy yourselves. That should be better now. I saw somebody making a joke that you now won't be kissing Astarian from across the room. But we're going to go through these. That was the quick notes. If that's all you wanted, peace. I will include a link to the full notes in the description of this. But just to do it, I'm actually going to run through the entire list. So brace yourselves. Bear with me. There's quite a bit to cover. Okay, quick notes. Blah, blah, blah. Deep dive here. That will also be in the link. So there is a way to jump into it. The Steam patch notes are up as well, but my understanding was the character limit cut them off. So you actually don't get the complete patch notes if you go to Steam as opposed to the Baldur's Gate game website. New epilogues, new game modes, inventory access. Almost forgot that. So they have changed the inventory access in some ways that they hinted at that I haven't seen yet. But one of the big ones is now you can access the inventory of every single person in your camp from camp. So if you're in camp looking in inventory, you can't just look at the 3 people who are in your party at that time. You can look at everyone available to join you, which is awesome. That's a really nice change that tripped me up a couple times this week. Some mods may become temporarily incompatible. Bummer. Yeah, so this is one of these things that this is still very much a work in progress, which I appreciate, but also I'm trying to avoid third-party mods with that in mind. Later on, once some of the mods are more established and the patch schedule has slowed down a bit, I'll probably will revisit those later. But okay. Again, spoilers. Again, official spoiler warning. There are some story-specific moments. I have read this all once and didn't find any of them too significant. Handful of things, but that's your warning. Mostly of later acts, but there is a little bit of the earlier act, Act 1. Okay, main highlights. New epilogue. Entirely new section at the end of the game. Woo! 2 new play modes. Honor mode is now the extra hard mode, and then custom mode, which I imagine is going to play well with a lot of mods, and I'm curious to see what goes with that. That may be designed for dungeon masters to actually customize things and just use the tool here, but it does say play modes, not difficulty levels. So that custom mode does read like it's something that, ooh, it's going to be fun. Many performance improvements, particularly Act 3. I mentioned that slowdown bug. Dynamic resolution for PS5. Again, PS5 was having some display issues. Playing on machines with low video RAM or RAM should see improved performance. I appreciate that. Thank y'all. Game is available in Korean. Cool. While at camp, you now have access to manage the inventories of companions who aren't your active party. Added a brand new fight in Ramazith's tower if you betray the night song there. Oren's outfit now drops loot and is wearable by anyone. We also gave it a suitably disgusting description and name. Gross. I have a vague idea who Oren is, so I'm pretty grossed out by that. But if you don't, cool. Not a spoiler. Shadowheart will always be the owner of the artifact during the tutorial if she is a follower. Okay. I dismissed her fairly on in one of my playthroughs, and I did immediately gain the artifact, which is too early. So, but it didn't affect the playthrough at all. Becoming half illithid, spoilers, will now visually affect your eyes. Okay. Bonus actions that share a hotkey by default will now gain a hotkey according to a certain priority order. Don't know what that means. Cool. A romance Minthara can now refer to her bond with you using the drow word for deep, unbreakable love. That's just that little like flavor piece that somebody really thought was important enough to add in there. Fixed above, where party members would sometimes not change back to the armor set they were displaying before entering camp. You can now talk to Mole more after a contract with Raphael in the guild hall. All of this will mean something to me later in the game. I have met some of those characters. Withers will sneakily resurrect any dead companions that fell before the final battle, so they can join in the ending cinematics. That is cool. That is, and that's one of those things where it's like doesn't make as much plot thing, where like you lost a companion, they should die, but at the same time, that's really nice for getting a complete ending when you make it all the way through the game. And not everyone's going to be a nutcase and play through this multiple times, so that's really cool to get the full experience for all players. Gave Jaheira her own scene with Danthalon if she approaches him alone. Ooh, interesting. And a lot of this is spoilers, but things that you may be like, we'll have to try that. Improve the physics of characters and walls to prevent NPCs from being able to shoot through ceilings inside houses. I did run into that a little bit in Act 1. Fixed an issue in where Gale's scene with Mistra after the final combat of the game only played if you had no one else in your party. Ooh, yeah, that's something you don't want. Made cinematics tweaks to restore sections of Astarian's Act 3 Ascendant sex scene. Not going to read into what that means, but the kiss is fixed. Improved companion reactivity when making the decision before Netherbrain. Okay. The loading screen art now unlocks gradually as you progress through the game. Now, it's really funny. 2 days ago, I was playing this and I was just staring at the loading screen like, I wonder if there are spoilers in this. And that is super cool that, yes, there are. And I did miss them, and now I've missed my chance. Shucks. Boo will no longer take damage when thrown. Throwing a hamster, have fun. Fix the puzzle in Cazador's palace. Fix the screen going black during Astarian's endgame romance scene. Wow, there's a lot of issues with that. Added some additional audio and cinematic work to the intimate scene with the drow and Sheris's caress. Wild shapes that do not have weapons will now benefit from having the Tavern Brawler feat. Word on the internet is that Tavern Brawler is incredibly busted, and this may make it even more busted. So, yeah. But at the same time, there is a nerf later on, so we'll get to that. But cool. Fixed crashes that could occur while loading a save game. Fixed a crash for some players upon entering Nine Fingers Guild Hall. Fixed a crash when dragging an item out of your inventory while your character is dead in another inventory. Bummer. Fixed a texture-related crash and leak. I don't know what a leak is in a game. All right. Fixed a crash and blocker when interacting with Auntie Ethel in Act 3. Spoilers. Fixed an issue preventing you from leveling up when there were more slots than spells to choose from. Okay. Fixed a crash that could have, I could see that. So you have 4 spell slots and you can only choose 3 spells. You wouldn't be able to complete that level up. Okay, bummer. Edge case, but still nice to know that's fixed. There's another one later that'll come up that's very similar. Fixed a crash that could occur when entities don't support passives during a combat. Vague. This is where you could use some sass, Larry, and I would love to know what that means. Fixed a possible crash related to dealing damage when the game can't detect a source for that damage. Mysterious. Added fixes for certain random crashes. Thorough patch notes have to still truncate stuff a bit. So there's a lot in here that's not even going to be in the notes. Fixed a rare crash caused by clothing physics in the level up screen. Fixed a DLSS crash. Combat and balance. Fixed the combat AI, sometimes not checking if it can use items. I could see some of the enemies randomly trying to throw something, but they don't have hands. Oops. Fixed the hag, sometimes skipping turns. There's a lot of fixes to the hag. I've learned a lot of spoilers from that. Improved a confusing message in the high hall combat that suggested the Nautiloid was targeting itself. Fixed the Nether Brain sometimes only being able to cast one spell per round instead of several. Great, I don't want to fight that. In Tactician mode, the Hag, there she is, can no longer be killed by being shoved into chasms. She can cast magic after all. Of course, silly you can't just push her in the hole. Fixed Assassin's Alacrity. Assassins get their action back after the first turn of combat. Okay. Fixed Summon duration starting to tick down too soon while summoned in combat. I've seen a lot of talk about Necromancer builds, and I could have seen that being a big downer. So that's a cool bonus to have there. Attacks against a paralyzed or unconscious target no longer automatically hit. You can trip over your own toe, but any hits that land do deal critical damage. Okay. Flesh to Stone is now considered a harmful spell. That is good because I saw a meme video where someone just fleshed to stone an entire town and no one went aggressive because that didn't trigger anything. And you could cast own friendlies. Fix the slowed condition, applying a -2 penalty to all saving throws instead of just dexterity. That will make some early fights significantly easier. Hope from the House of Hope now carries half plate armor and a light crossbow. She also now carries a more powerful shield. Okay. Battlemaster maneuvers now correctly add your proficiency bonus to the difficulty class. Ooh, okay. Raphael's Inevitable Resolve passive now triggers correctly. Dun dun dun. Half-orc Savage attacks now also applies to offhand weapons. So any of you who are dual-wielding half-orcs may or may not have noticed that your secondary weapon was not getting the bonus criticals. Gave Primal Stampede a saving throw to save against being prone. Okay, so there wasn't a save on that. Dang. Casting Blade Barrier while under the effects of Sanctuary will cause the Sanctuary to end. I see you cheesers doubling up in your defensive spells. All gathered allies that can be summoned for the final battle Upper City will have their resources restored if they use them elsewhere in the adventure. That's nice. So you go into the final battle not unprepared no matter what. In the combat with Raphael, when he transforms into the Ascended Fiend, spoilers, all surrounding fires will turn into Hellfire. Ooh, I imagine that's cool in cinematic. No such thing as a free lunch. Oh yeah? Consuming the Noble Stock Mushroom during combat now costs an action. Okay. Increase the rarity value of the Elixir of Cloud Giant Strength. Carsight Grip now correctly bounces to additional targets, and its visual effects should trigger correctly on distant enemies. Okay. Fixed an issue at the Tavern Brawler feat, there it is, where damage bonuses were being incorrectly applied multiple times while making a throwing attack. I've seen several things about how broken Tavern Brawler was, so we just saw it buffed in Wild Shape and otherwise debuffed, where there were some exploits that don't work anymore. That's probably good. Raphael's Soul Pillar Proximity condition will now activate at the start of combat rather than on his first turn, so he will get a complete first turn. The Potion of Angelic Slumber now restores War Priest Cleric's extra attack charges. There's a lot of words there, I don't know. Dark Urge players should now have the option to kill the Nether Brain in the game's final combat. Spoilers. Gortash's Incineration Casters no longer display a danger area once they are destroyed. When players start a combat inside the Elfsong Tavern, all the patrons will now cower instead of continuing to drink. All right. You know what? I could see that being intentionally thematic, where you start a fight and they're just like, oh, this happened yesterday. But that's probably better, depending on the fight, too. Fixed an issue where Bjorn Wunterbred wouldn't become hostile towards you if you attacked your allies in High Hall. Interesting. I mean, Bernard's Static Discharge condition now lasts 2 turns instead of 3. Cool. Oh, debuff there. Fixed Grimm's Reverberating condition, clearing at the start of his turn instead of the end, causing the movement speed buff to not work. So he's going to be scarier. Gameplay. You can now use Luck of the Far Realms while disguised. Okay. The reaction pop-up, which shows multiple possible reactions for multiple party members, now allows you to change your mind after picking a reaction for a party member. That is nice. So you click the box and then say, okay. You can no longer use the awesome force of bombs. There you are, being sassy. To flip the switch behind the final door, and the Gauntlet of Shard to force the door open. All right, y'all, getting sneaky. Tweaked some code to simplify and improve the camera system. Very nice. Fixed being unable to switch characters if a reaction pop-up opens for a split screen player that is far away. Okay. I think we actually ran into that in my group playthrough, and we had to save and load, and it worked to fix it. Fixed occasional T-poses and frozen animations related to the incapacitated condition. Nice. That's actually a very classic bug that pops up in games all the time, but still glad to see that. Fixed combat information such as advantage and disadvantage not displaying when targeting a specific body part of a larger creature. When it's possible to change the use cost of an item, the modification will now depend on the user of the item rather than its owner. Loading a game that was saved on the roll result screen will now keep the results of the roll, for better or for worse, yes, sneakers. Dousing a fire will now also extinguish the fire's ambient light. Probably good. I could see some weird things happening with that. Fixed a bug causing the game to sometimes turn allies, green border, into companions, blue border, when loading a save game during combat. So the border color, I guess, maybe threw some people off. I don't know if that had any mechanical impact beyond the border color. Reduced character animation popping when loading a game that was saved during a dialogue. Hmm. Fixed the combat UI. Honestly forgot or didn't realize that you could save in the middle of a dialogue. That could have saved me quite a bit of time. Should have thought of that. I would expect escape to actually just exit out of the conversation, but I guess not. Fix the combat UI not automatically skipping to the next available party member after a controlled character dies. Womp womp. You can no longer loot the entire inventory of unconscious traders. Instead, you have access to a limited selection, as with dead traders. Nice try, pacifists. Y'all just knocking out the traders to get access to their full inventory. I loved that. This is the first bit of sass that I actually noticed when reading through this the first time. While using a controller while in camp, camp characters will appear in your character sheet for easier swapping in inventories. That's nice. Fix the surprise condition being added twice by a stealth attack. Brutal. I think I saw some exploits on that too. Improve the visuals for dropping a dead body out of your inventory. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer, we guess. And for moving living bodies out of Withers' wardrobe. Withers has a wardrobe of bodies. I'll see that someday. Dismissing to the wardrobe, imagine the above, an avatar who is carrying the dead body of another avatar will now correctly remove both from the active party. There's something there I will learn about someday. Added the intensely satisfying sound for players who short rest using a keybind rather than a UI button. Okay. So if you use the keybind, it didn't do the noise. That would be a bummer because that short rest noise really is rejuvenating. Fixed goblins beating the war drums even after getting stopped with the sentinel feet. Fixed an issue with characters wild-shaped into Dilophosauruses appearing below ground upon exiting Worm's Rock prison via the secret exit. I could see that being very inconvenient, and that is so specific. Okay. Most traps should now crumble on being disarmed. I really appreciate that because a lot of the time the trap is still there after disarmed, and I was just like, is that safe? Are you messing with me? So I appreciate that. Fix the bodies of characters sometimes floating in the middle of the Underdark entrance pits after being shoved in. Okay. Fixed Bibberbangs not reacting to summons. Now Bibberbangs only ignore creatures that have different weights to air and fire elementals, mage hands, shadows, etc. Okay. Summoning the Flesh Golem and the Gauntlet of Shar will now cost 1 action, and he won't join if he is already in combat. So specific. Shadow Step is no longer blocked by silence. Shar is now aware of Shadowheart's actions, even if she is using Disguise Self. Sneaky. She's a goddess? Shar, right? Yeah. Aspect of the chimpanzee. What? Okay. Will now only blind the target on a failed dexterity saving throw. And they also nerfed, no, not blind. They nerfed slowed. Kind of. They fixed it to where it's worked the way it's supposed to, which works out as a nerf. Fixed area spells like Thunderwave, revealing invisible cubes. Knocking out Auntie Ethel no longer prevents her from changing into hag form. Interesting. Jumping to view the character whose turn it is in combat no longer requires shared initiative. Okay, that's good. Dipping toxin into, this is good. Dipping weapons into toxin puddles makes attacks toxic for 10 turns rather than until long rest. We cheesed that the other day. The bandits in the dank crypt will now have more loot and trap disarm kits. That is what I'm sad about because I have passed the dank crypt in all of my playthroughs, and that would have been very nice. Tieflings Amek, Raquel, and Zeph will now have loot. Not sure where that is, but I'm pretty sure I accidentally killed them at least twice. Akabi in the Circus of Last Days now has more gold when trading. Auntie Ethel's charm is now more valuable and has a higher rarity rating. Fixed heat metal expiring too early. That's a very handy spell that comes up a lot. Applying chilled or wet to a character will no longer cause them to freeze without warning. Very seasonal. I feel like there's something there. It's either a joke or a hint or both, and I'm not really sure. Poisons and toxins now have the correct gold costs. I did feel like those were kind of low. Interacting with, well, but hey, who knows? Maybe they'll be higher now, or maybe they'll be lower now. Interacting with Stelmane's ring at Elfsong Tavern will no longer immediately equip it. It's probably good. Removed the persistent overhead exclamation mark from Will. Will is up there. The tier is a little bit tough, but Will is probably top 3. Some of my absolute favorite characters so far, very early in the game. I like Will. But but he does seem to get picked on a lot as a character that a lot of people pick on. So I'm really glad that there's nothing like that making it easier to pick on the dude, because that, no. Fixed companions losing their custom potion positions at camp after loading a save game, right? Fixed DLC rewards not immediately granting when a new player joins an existing game. Spell rot now updates when changing difficulty, so be very careful of your brain broke. What is that? Sanitation. I'll get to that. Wash your hands when you're changing your difficulties. It's a stupid joke. It wasn't worth it. Using the lift in the House of Healing in turn-based mode will no longer cause it to loop between floors indefinitely upon exiting turn-based mode. Good, that would have been a problem. Fixed a rare bug where Halson would decide to turn into a bear whenever you talk to him at camp in the Shadow Cursed lands. Okay. Donating gold to Man Up Nester now correctly deducts money from your inventory. Ah, bummer. Lifting V-Rocks from the dead Flaming Fist at last light now requires a strength check rather than athletics. Yeah, you're not juggling the thing. Flaming Fist reinforcements can now be summoned to deal with criminal activity on the bridge leading to Worms Rock Fortress. That will be important someday, I'm sure. This one, I'm gonna poke this thing for like days. You've messed with me, Larian, and I'm gonna bite. The skeleton on the beach outside Worms Rock's prison no longer triggers a perception check. Only a skeleton, after all. Is it? Is it only a skeleton? You messing with me? I gotta look for that skeleton. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find something with this skeleton. Quartermaster Tali will no longer offer additional supply packs to the same character disguised as another character. Y'all are very clever. I'm loving this. The creatures summoned with the spell Conjure Woodland Being, the Dryad and Wood Woad, are now capable of jumping. That's a bummer that they weren't. Casting Eye Bite, Asleep, or Eye Bite Sickened on a neutral target should now trigger combat. I am pretty shocked that that didn't. Non-damaging spells no longer remove the turned condition from characters. Okay, so if you bless a turned undead, it doesn't shrug and walk away. Well, it doesn't decide to come back after you. Okay, although I could see it wanting to. Outlanders won't receive an inspiration point anymore for giving Thula a noble stock if they give her an antitoxin. She also won't keep the potion you give her. Okay. The Sharon's Shadow Ambush ability will now only trigger on weapon attacks. Good. Lifts and moving platforms are now set in motion immediately upon being activated in turn-based mode. Also good. The Shadow-Cursed Undead Companions are no longer able to leave the Shadow-Cursed lands if you click too rapidly on the region exit. Who figured that out? That is crowdsourcing. Night Singer's Favor no longer replaces conditions applied by elixirs. Cool. Effects that cure poison will now also remove drow poison and crawler mucus. Not looking forward to finding out what that is. Sounds like a reference to the original Baldur's Gate, actually, in the sewers there. So, hey, that's appropriate. Perma burning weapons can no longer be coated in other substances. In short, no double dipping. I mean, you could have poison fumes. But yeah, I did that the other day too, so bummer. The Emperor can no longer use the extract brain ability on prone creatures. He prefers his food to be fighting fit. Gross, guys. The lucky feat now works even while players are polymorphed or wild shaped. That's a real bummer that you were not able to do that while wild shaped before. So cool. Glad that's fixed. Fixed Conjure Minor Elemental at level 6. It will now correctly summon ice methods instead of making you settle for lowly mud methods. Come on, let's not be harsh on the mud methods. They're not so bad. They're pretty bad. They're pretty bad. The secret button behind the still life painting in Candle Hallows Tombstones is now uninteractable until the painting is moved. Just poke the painting to push the button. All right. Fixed an issue causing valid spellcasting positions not to be allowed when spellcasting. I ran into that the other day. There were weird pathing issues when I was trying to trigger shots off clear shots. Fix the combat log, sometimes showing the incorrect text for rolls and saving throws. Animated armors are now immune to sleep, which totally makes sense because they don't sleep. Good to know. The hag no longer has her passives while disguised as Mayrina. Spoilers. Starting combat by spending resources while in turn-based mode will now properly subtract the resources like in real time. Okay. Fixed a bug causing you to get stuck in an abomination if you're in the middle of a lockpicking active roll when Valeria's chains are destroyed. Okay, another edge case, but all right. Addressed a bug that prevented you from casting a spell variant when selecting fewer than the maximum number of possible targets. I hit this with, oh shoot, It's a classic D&D spell where it's a fire spell. You pick 3 targets. If there are only 2 targets to pick, you can't cast it. But that's fixed now. That's just fantastic. So magic missile comes up. What is that? I'll figure it out later. But anyway, I look very happy about that. I thought it was just a thing, a limitation in D&D because I'm a bit of a rookie, but good to know that that was a bug and has been fixed. Fix the resonance stone, losing its aura when you long rest with it in your inventory. Act agnostic. There we go. Love it. Flow and scripting. Mizora should appear for her judgment of will only when Karlach is actually dead. Resurrecting her will cancel the moment. That's good because I saw people cheesing that this week. If Will somehow manage to avoid Mizora's punishment for keeping Karlach alive, he'll be punished retroactively. Those are both related to the same cheese I saw recently. The Dark Urge should now be able to attempt to deflect Stellaritus's fell suggestion of killing a companion to Karlach or Lae'Zel if they have a bad relationship. Playing Dark Urge now, not looking forward to finding out what that means, but I will. If you connect with Gale during the spell teaching scene but do not wish to pursue romance with him, you are now able to talk to him about Tara. I've seen a lot of jokes about how you can't get into deep conversations with characters without romancing them, so it's nice they added that in there. Fixed Astarion accidentally telling the Dark Urge's future. Womp womp. Fixed companions sometimes confusing you for the Dark Urge or Gale. Okay, all right, some dialogue options comes up. Fix the romance scene with Astarion triggering 2 long rests in a row in certain conditions. Wow, you get really tired. Fix the night where Astarion tries to bite you, triggering even if you learned about him being a vampire spawn beforehand. That was a weird one. I think I did that and was just like, okay, whatever, I guess I'll act surprised here. Shadow Heart's artifact tinkering scene will now only play once you have been introduced to the artifact. Okay, good. Fixed speaker prioritization in the Magic Mirror and Underdark Raft dialogues. Speaker prioritization. Okay. Yeah. If you choose to help Yerger in Act 2, then you will no longer need to persuade him to help you in the fight against Raphael in the House of Hope. Cool. Okay. Astarion no longer asked the Dark Urge about killing Isabel, even if they didn't. Ooh, that would be an awkward conversation. You no longer comment on Mole if you haven't met her before. Very proud to have met her twice, 2 different ways in playthroughs of Act 1, but I could see how she'd be easy to miss. Locke no longer blames Zevlor for his death if Zevlor died in Act 1. Interesting. If you are romancing Lae'Zel or in good standing with her, she'll be less abrasive if you suggest she hang out at camp. Now, Lae'Zel also gets a bad rap. She's actually probably my favorite companion because she's the only one who's like, y'all, this is a bad situation. We have to be serious about this. Everyone else is like, oh, a lovely walk. I'm going to pick this plant. Not my best impression. They're all serious in different ways, but Lae'Zel's like, she's on task. She's got this. I like it. Fixed a multiplayer issue where the client's companion would react to the host Astarion's avatar's vampirism instead of the host's own companion. Don't know what that means. Gale will no longer repeatedly say the same line about dying in the follow-up to rescuing him with the Magic Flutes protocol. Okay. Karlach will no longer disapprove when the player resurrects a companion with Withers' help. That does seem, yeah, that would be hard. Karlach's camp reflection upon leaving Act 2 will also trigger if needed during the transition into Act 3. Lae'Zel will no longer become uninteractive after you dismiss her to camp if the romance duel at camp failed to resolve properly. She will also be now be fixed if she was stuck in this state. Okay. Bummer bug. I got past that bit, but I did successfully pass it. So good. Helps be charming. Will should now, oh, excuse me, this is specific to Act 1. So these are early game spoilers. So these are the ones that I may pop up. Will should now trigger a proper dialogue when spotting Avatar Karlach after the Drew Goblin raid on the Grove. Oh, if you play as Karlach. Gotcha. Okay. Your character will now make a comment when using the secret lever in the Arcane Tower in the Underdark. Okay. Fixed Crusher, sometimes making a comment at the same time as he enters a fist fight with you. Fixed a bug where knocking out Crusher during the fist fight causes his friends to treat him as dead and causes him to lose his dialogue till you take a long rest. Okay. Fixed a bug where knocking out one of Crusher's friends counts as killing them and causes them to lose their dialogue permanently. Ooh. Okay. I haven't run into Crusher, but apparently it's a big deal fight. Fixed Gek Cole repeating himself and ending his dialogue early. Fixed several instances of sleeping goblins waking up and wanting a chat when they should have been hostile. Would have liked to see that one, but glad it's fixed. Fixed an issue where Balin could sprint away and disappear if you tried to hit him while he was in the Bibberbank field. Well, now I know I'm going to try to hit the dude while he's in the Bibberbank field. Removed some line. Well, maybe. We'll see. Removed some lines from Magran that were lacking bare form lip sync. Who needs to chat when you can roar? Okay. Act 2. You can no longer tell Barkus about Wulbren at Last Light if they've already reunited. Sure. Saris will now remember you in Act 2 if you met her in Act 1. Okay. Fixed an issue in Moonrise Towers docks where you'd be stopped by guards several times despite having permission to go around your business. That would be annoying. Made sure the Moonrise Towers waypoint unlocks when you enter the main floor. Fixed an issue where your allies get angry if you committed crimes against your enemies during the Moonrise Towers raid. Ooh, okay. So if you rob an enemy, they'd get mad at you. Yeah. Halsin will no longer forget about saving Vaniel if you travel back to Act 1 while he's waiting at the lakeside. Focus, Halsin. There's a lot in that I'm like, hang on. But, okay. Dame Allen won't mention that she wants to talk to Shadowheart anymore when she knows Shadowheart has permanently left the party for any reason. Okay. Fixed a flow where a background goal regarding recounting Ketheric's past to him was not triggering. Regarding recounting Ketheric's past. Wow, tough sentence. Okay. Latecomers to the Ketheric showdown fight on the rooftop in the Mind Flare colony, spoilers, will now have their summons and followers teleported into the boss room. Players who arrive to the Ketheric showdown shapeshifted will now have to face him person to person, not Apostle the Badger. Come on, I mean, that's fun. Anyway. Your dream visitor will now pipe up at the correct time, not a little late, while exploring Moonrise Towers. There's a trap after you stepped in it. Halsin now deigns, they really like ripping on Halsin here, deigns to pitch in against the Absolute Ghouls if they attack the Last Light Inn. Okay. Warlocks can now tell Yurgir to kill himself to be freed from his contract. Diabolical. You should no longer be able to refer to Nightsong when talking to Gale as if you haven't met her. Oh, Nightsong is a person. There we go. Spoilers. Minthara now dies when left alive in the prison after Ketheric has been killed. Okay. The guards at Moonrise only question you about Minthara once now. Okay. That's good. If Nightsong is downed, Nightsong and Moonrise, very confusing that the names are so similar, having not gotten there. I'm sure it'll be distinct when I get to Act 2. If Nightsong is downed when the Apostle of Miracle is defeated, she will get up in time to participate in the ensuing cinematic. Good. Bummer. Minthara now cannot be stuck as a follower rather than a recruitable companion that moves from Moonrise Towers. Oof, rough. Minthara will still appear at Moonrise Towers if she was knocked out in Act 1. Okay. Squire, the skeletal hound. Things I'm yet to learn. In Moonrise will no longer try to call for guards once the assault has started. Okay. If Isabel is thrown off her balcony, she'll make more of an effort to get back upstairs again. I have so many questions. Cressa Bone Daughter, lovely, will now recognize the dark urge even if she spots another party member first. That sounds like I am glad that was fixed because I haven't hit that dialogue and it sounds like it's going to be an important one. Act 3. Players will no longer be able to join an active game where their characters have reached the morphic pool or beyond. Makes sense. Fixed Raven Guard repeatedly asking you to help free Floric. Okay. That name is familiar. Fixed Voss sometimes not moving to the tap room when he says he will. The wine festival attendants will now be in the right position after the crime. Okay. The Flaming Fist will appear at the wine festival crime scene if Cora and Roger were killed during a long rest. So used to be able to kill them during a long rest and then the Flaming Fist would not appear. The Mind Flare at the Worms Crossing Windmill will now take the body you offer it. Okay. Fixed a barricaded door in the lower city, causing player characters to comment about it not working when opening it. Yurgir should correctly react in the House of Hope to the fact that he was tricked and killed himself in the Gauntlet of Shar. Removed Victoria's Speak with Dead dialogue in Cazador's palace as it didn't match the story that you can learn about her from different diaries within the palace. Also true of the bard Alfira. If you have a Dark Urge playthrough and you talk to her and Speak with Dead afterwards, it is a dialogue as if you had found her dead later in the game, not as if you just did what you did. So that probably will be removed at some point too. Fixed a bug where the ghost of the murder victim in the murder tribunal would not fade out and join combat if you rush through the trial. There's a lot that I'm about to experience here that's pretty exciting. You'll notice that this Act 3 part is quite long. Fix some beggars in the Brampton district facing the wrong way when asking for coin. Fix the Emperor sometimes saying the wrong lines during the combat in the High Hall. Bummer. Dame Allen no longer waits 10 days. 10 days. 10 days. I'm sure that's a joke about how long it takes her to bring it up. About the time she killed Ketheric Thorn, because there's no way it was actually 10 days. I hope not. Yeah. We have convinced Shadowheart not to join the final Nautiloid combat if she is already dead. There's a funny bug. Another, wow, I enjoy that. Which is funny because that feels like it contradicts with some of the other fixes, but it's good that they fixed that while fixing the others because that would have caused more of an issue. The party will no longer talk about Astarion choosing to remain a vampire spawn if Cazador's ritual was interrupted before he could choose. Good. Players can now start the Solve the Open Hand Temple Murders quest after finding the murderer's dagger and room key underneath the Open Hand Temple. I guess there's another trigger you could potentially miss. Refugee Kothi in the lower city sewers is now willing to engage in conversation. New conversation. Umberlee's worshippers are now considerably more security conscious about the donations in the Water Queen's house. Okay. You could just rob it and run away at the time. After intimidating or persuading Nubalden, the dialogue will now let you choose from the list of initial questions. Ooh, okay. Okay. Fixed a state where the Chamber of Insight trial could be both succeeded and failed. Ooh, clever. Fixed Dame Allen becoming hostile in Ramesses Tower after combat with Lorikhan if a player someone was killed. Fixed an issue where Steel Watchers would interrogate and attack avatars who were already in prison. Wow, brutal. Minthara no longer repeats herself in support of Astarion becoming a vampire ascendant. Servox, spoilers, calling you an interloper no longer causes all of your allies to attack you. The owlbear no longer shows up as an ally if Dammon is dead. Now, I really like Dammon as a character. I really like owlbears, and the idea of having an owlbear show up as an ally is very exciting. This line made me very concerned about what could happen in future acts. Edited the Gazette headline about Ravengard to mention that his disappearance rather than his death. Minthara is talkative again after the scene with Dribbles. The Ball cultists in the sewers will now react to dialogue if an unholy assassin avatar kills the refugees they were tormenting. It's getting dark, y'all. Apprentice Lae'Zel will no longer assume you will be the bearer of bad luck or breakup news if you didn't bring her the breakup message. Ooh. Ravengard should now use the correct pronouns when addressing you during the ceremony in Worm's Rock. If you use the Pixie's Bell after leaving Act 2, the Pixie Blessing effect will now be cleared after you long rest. So it lasted longer before? Karlach no longer thinks she's left the Hells when you explore the rocky outcrop near Hope's prison. I feel like there's a spoiler in there about being in the Hells, but I don't. If Honk, I assume a talking goose, appeared during the date with Karlach. If Honk appeared during the date with Karlach in Baldur's Gate, he will appear at the tavern the day after. There's a lot in that. There's a lot to unpack in that one. Okay. The vampire spawn Yusin's dialogue should now trigger correctly. It is now possible to tell Thrumbo that Carrion's heart has been given to him instead of destroyed. Okay. Fix some in-game events not correctly reacting to long rests in the lower city. Added further correspondence between Mystic Carrion and his clients, giving you additional opportunities to learn how to access his mansion. Very nice. Journal. Learning about the true nature of Astarion in Kresh Yilek or in the Shadow Curse lands now results in a journal entry. Nice. Reaching Worm's Crossing without knowing that Astarion is a vampire spawn now updates the journal with an entry that reveals this information. How would you get that far without knowing? Never mind. That's okay. Fixed an unclear journal entry in the Solve the Open Hand Temple Murders quest. Destroying Susser Bark now closes the Finish the Masterwork Weapon quest. The journal entries for the Investigate Cazador's Palace quest no longer refer to Ulma's promise of help, if she didn't make you that promise. Fixed a memory leak if a visual is unloaded while a facial animation is playing, for example, when exiting a game region, okay? Improved performance, I'm sorry, this is the performance and optimization section. Improved performance drops when opening a radial menu while casting a spell, nice. Optimize the level of detail for various assets, nice. Reduce the memory footprint of game objects, they're very nice. Optimize certain behind-the-scenes protocols to stop frame spikes while teleporting in Act 3, that did come up. Added reduced triangle count versions of hierarchical levels of detail visible in the low model quality settings, which will help people running at very low settings. Excuse me. Love this. Improved VRAM usage by optimizing some lighting and textures. Cool. Improved performance loading objects in the lower city by tweaking the light and decal loading system. Cool. Improved the performance of water physics. Improved system memory function by removing unused fallback fonts. Man, those really. It is very funny how much of an impact unused fallback fonts can have on load times. I have seen this in action. I mean, I'm in my experience on websites, but in games too. So that's cool. Love it. Fix some VATs leaking after cinematics with destruction. VATs leaking. That does sound bad. Fix some parts of virtual textures infinitely loading. Ooh. Lowered the UI memory footprint at full HD or lower resolutions. So that's really good. So that's going to, again, speed things up considerably. Increase the crispness of UI textures at lower than full HD resolutions. A lot of these are speaking to me as I still have a fairly old computer. Many, many other fixes for leaks are RAM, VRAM reduction, and performance optimizations. Thanks, y'all. That's really nice. Shout out to the devs. UI added a profanity filter for custom map markers. Ooh, you'll have to find more creative ways to label the kennel master. Okay. All right. Stop the examine button occasionally disappearing. Added a message in a combat log about being spotted in stealth due to environmental light or dark vision. That's nice. So you know why you were spotted in some cases. Improve the connection between combat log messages about you losing stealth and the reason for losing it. Very good. You can now sell and barter items inside containers when trading. That is terrific because that drove me nuts. Now, if only you could barter from multiple characters' inventories in the same dialogue. Because if I have a magic axe on Lae'Zel that I want to sell, but I've got a bunch of stuff in the barter screen with my avatar, you have to end it and either start over or do one with just her to get that. So, anyway. Yeah, wish list. You can now do that. Improved grouping and sorting items in containers while trading. Very nice. Blocked trade and attack options for players listening in on someone else's dialogue. Okay. Yeah, I can see that being an issue. Fix some issues with loot containers not closing when you take all of the items. Ooh, haven't seen that. Fixed the active spell sometimes not glowing in the hotbar. Okay, which is really good because when you're doing a concentration spell, sometimes it's easy to forget you're actively casting that. Fixed internal parameters and dialogue lines sometimes being displayed instead of the correct values, like names and gold amounts after loading save games. Okay. Information about damage dealt using gold, is that the heat metal gold thing, is now displayed in a condensed form in the combat log. The combat log will now display the relevant weapon name when applying a weapon damage bonus. Very nice. Pressing extract on an alchemical ingredient in the inventory now correctly opens the alchemy menu. Withers' wardrobe of wayward friends now has a map icon. Fixed the broken mouse over text warning that you can't use sneak attacks again until your next turn. Okay. Improved cycling between targets. Very nice. Splitting a green die stack in the traveler's chest at camp will no longer change the die's rarity from uncommon to very rare. It's that kind of bug you wonder, like, what's happening here? What's going on in the code that's making it happen? Tooltips, icons, and portraits. The tooltip for alchemical ingredients will no longer get cropped. Fix the text on some tooltips being cut off. Fix item descriptions overlapping with icons and tooltips. Obnoxious. Good fix. Fix to the mass healing word tooltip incorrectly indicating a target limit. Ooh. Fix the action resource tooltip clipping in French. I want to see that now. Fix several pairs of gloves displaying the wrong name and icon. Swap to the insight and perception icons. Okay. Ironic that we didn't spot that one sooner. Well, that's because your insight and perception were backwards, y'all. Oathbreakers can now see their armor in the character portrait after leveling up. Fixed the Steam icons that appear in Reactions UI and multiplayer settings being zoomed in. The combat log will now name wall-based spells with the mouse over tooltip, as with other spells. And now I will wonder for the rest of the night what a wall-based spell is. Character creation and level up. The no chin attachment icon when customizing Dragonborn characters will now update according to the head you've chosen. Nice. Sliders in the character creation now update to their new value after you randomize your appearance. Okay. Okay. All right. That's good. Updated the character creation ability screen on controller. On controller. Good. Yeah. Nice. So console folks should find a lot to like about this. Fixed a controller UI issue where switching to a race with only 2 body types in the Guardian character creation UI prevented more than 2 body types displaying for every other race. Updated the character creation camera control icon on the controller. That was a lot of stuff there, but that is also very good. Controller and split screen prevented the controller's right stick from navigating radial menus. Oh yeah, I could see that being annoying. Improved the radial UX for actions that use items such as throw and improvised melee weapon. Customize radial menu slots in the controller UI now triggers audio feedback. Added other missing audio feedback when making certain selections on the controller. Updated the visuals of the sliders in the gamma and HDR calibration settings on controller. Fixed missing audio feedback in various UIs along with spamming sounds using shortcuts on controller. The button to jump to a character whose turn it is in combat is no longer hidden on controller. Updated the hold button prompt animation controller, fixed UI clipping in the examination panel, removed an element from the controller options menu that only works on PC. The active search UI will no longer reveal that a container is empty before you've opened it. Oh. Okay. Added an option to adjust controller stick sensitivity. Optimize the radial menus for the controller UI. Fixed show pings being hidden in the controller menu. Added a group all button for party on the controller. Made grouping and ungrouping summoned creatures a toggle. Nice. Added the ability to toggle between melee and ranged weapon sets on the controller UI. Very nice. Fixed corpses in your inventory on the controller UI having a purple equipped icon. Cool. So yeah, this is going to be really, really good for control users, and that'll be PC controller users, but then also console users. Very exciting. Level design. Fix some navigation issues with the glitter gala and the chromatic scale in the lower city. Increase the navigation space in the mausoleum doorways behind the mural. Nice. Fix textures disappearing by tweaking the fade settings in the roof behind the tea house fireplace. Ooh, interesting. Gotta look around behind the tea house fireplace. You can no longer wander into cragged rocks meant for climbing. Added some planks and rubble in a spot in Joaquin's Rest to clarify that you have to jump to get from one spot to another. You can now target the crumbling wall in Heapside Prison regardless of whether the adjacent door is open or not. Made a couple of balustrades around Malice Thorm see-through so they don't block the camera. Oh, that's nice. The hanging cages in Cazador's dungeon will no longer tell you they're safe to step on, only to drop you to your death in the chasm below. Bummer for the folks that discovered that one. Hope you saved. Fixed Murkon sometimes cowering in fairly deep water when you talk to him while he's running away from the harpies. Man, I have failed to save that kid. It's real sad. There we go. Adjusted some troublesome vents in Cazador's palace, improved Cazador's home security by locking a chest and a door. Go. Fixed and decorated some pressure plates in Cazador's palace. Locked one of the Kaza doors. You had to do it. You hit it there. It wasn't the first one. It had to be in the middle, so people knew what you're talking about. Added additional treasures to. I love solid pun. Well done. Added additional treasures to the chest in Cazador's palace. The Wraithwind Toll House is safe. The Wraithwind Toll House safe now has better loot. Now, I'm not sure which toll house I'm in, but I saved a game last night before this came out, literally at the toll house door. So I'm really hoping that this gives me better loot in there, and I'm hoping that it's that toll house. If not, it's still one I haven't found yet, so it'll still work out for me. But added more loot to the library in Rosimorn Monastery. A lava texture in the adamantine forge no longer overflows into the crucible. Fixed the raft at the Durgar camp sometimes being displaced. Fixed a chest in Cazador's palace having 2 copies of Dawson Kiltmaker's confession diary. Improved the treasure available in Wraithwind and the Silent Library. Replaced a crate in the Shadow-Cursed lands with a chest of loot. The Githyanki portals in the Elfsong basement no longer remain partially interactive once the combat with the Githyanki has ended. Spoilers. Enemies will no longer get stuck when flying from the upper floor of Ramazeth's tower to the floor below. Ooh. Added more containers with loot to the dock warehouse basement. A chest in Worm's Rock prison now has improved loot. A chest, you don't know which one. The torturers in Moonrise Towers now have more loot, so more tempting to kill them. The berry bush in Rosimorn Monastery can now be reached without jumping. Ooh. Fixed an unreachable desk in the counting house vaults. The sinister door in Cazador's palace now locks and unlocks correctly when you do it or when it wants to do it. Improve the quality of loot available in the hidden vault in Emerald Grove. Ooh, that's okay. Hidden vault in the spoilers. Hidden vault in the Emerald Grove. The central stone slab in the Druid's chambers will no longer obstruct your view. We have art changes. Fixed a flashing white square sometimes appearing by Karlach's tent at camp after the dark urges Urgin. An eternal debtor's hair no longer floats when the camera is zoomed out. Fixed a spot in Bloomridge Park that allowed you to walk on water. Who do you think you are? Made sure previews from certain camp gear like the Anarchic Blue outfit now display the correct colors. I see why that specific one was chosen. The blue outfit apparently wasn't always displaying as blue, but it is anarchic, and that is before the blue. So you know what? That could have worked. Fixed a missing texture on the lower body of male halflings while wearing half plate. A missing texture, huh? How wonderfully vague. Improved the lining up wall segments of the lower city sewers. Improved the hitbox of a door variant in the lower city, so projectiles cannot go through it when closed. Okay. Heterochromatic eye colors can now be applied to the correct eyes for the preset Elven characters in character creation. Improved the model for shirtless Cazador. You just wanted to get sassy. Okay, all right. Added some shiny new condition icons. There's a bunch of stuff in here with just like one line, and there's a ton of stuff in that. So I'm curious to see what else pops out. I'm very glad that I have played enough before this patch to recognize the changes, but also will be playing mostly after this patch, which is probably how I'm going to feel about all the patches, but this is a huge one. Deliria's character portrait now displays correctly in the controller UI. Updated Mag2 Budge's portrait. Fixed an empty space in the lower city vista. Fixed padded armor, sometimes appearing as underwear on bigger body types. Improved the texture resolution on the Wormway Dragon door. Okay, animation. We are almost done, y'all. You've been champ sticking with me this far if you have. Fixed cleric arms dipping through cloth when casting some spells. Holy smokes. You had to do it. Cleric arms clipping through cloth when casting some spells. Holy smokes. All right. Polished animations on the Steel Watcher, who invites you to Gortash's inauguration. Polished the jumping and hook attack animations for hook horrors. Ooh. Fixed an issue related to duration of the Myconid idol animation. Okay. Fixed some animation issues with Laura Watkins' robe. Adjusted the animations for Mystic Carrion's torrential undeath and wayward undead. Ooh. Fixed a level that probably came up with a lot of those necromancer plays we've been seeing. Fixed a level of detail issue causing skeletons in the dank crypt to lose their robes and appear naked, well, bony, when zoomed out. That was a stretch. I'm not going to give you guys that one. That's not as good as the skeleton on the bench that the people are going to dissect for the next 6 years. Fixed clipping around Dr. Morecambe's neck when he moves his head. Fixed missing leg textures on a female Githyanki while wearing the default barbarian clothes. You're being very vague about these fixed textures on legs. The Gondian gnomes no longer have stretched or bendy fingers due to the gloves they wear. I wish I could have seen that one. Polished the appearance of some robes when worn by male gnomes. Interesting. Improved the appearance of zombie. They look like bathrobes. What are we talking about? Improved the appearance of zombie clothes on male humans. Huh. Fixed clipping on Shadowheart's chain shirt when worn by female halflings when it just drags in the ground. Right. Polished motion and cloth stimulation for Queen Roll's dancing in Sharess's caress. Characters no longer twitch slightly after picking up or dropping an item from their inventory. Fixed a clipping issue and a custom animation of Astarion reading a book. Astarion was just being slippery and all this, and they got him back in place. Added an animation for looting while playing fetch. Added cloth simulation to magic monk armor for all races. Okay, yeah, that outfit looks pretty weird. It looked fixed now. Cool. Will's camp clothes can now be equipped by half-orcs without clipping, which doesn't make sense because certainly different sizes. Added some animation flair when you dismiss avatars to Withers' wardrobe. I still want to know what this is. When dragging and dropping a dead character from inventory, they'll no longer replay their death animation. Oh, God. Gruesome. Lighting. Polish the lighting for the Netherbrain confrontation. Very nice. Polished lighting in the scene where Mizora tells Will about his next mission in the Moonrise Towers. Oh, spoilers. Polished lighting in the scene between Minsk and Boss Friol. Okay. Sound. Improved the sound mixing for the absolute speaking to you and Shadowheart for the first time. Ooh. Fixed a duplicated sound when interacting with Goodberries. I mean, they are plural, so duplicated. Okay. Yeah. Improved the sound design for the Chosen Three controlling the Elder Brain in Act 2. Added a sound effect for characters dismissed to Withers' wardrobe of wayward friends. I need to figure out what that is. Fix the magic mirror background ambience persistence after you exit the UI. Added SFX to kissing Shadowheart in her default dialogues. There weren't sound effects. I'm actually kind of torn on how I feel about that, but I haven't seen that scene. So fixed an issue that was preventing some NPCs from fully playing their overhead dialogues. Ooh, okay. Added vocalizations to the unfortunate Duragar during the ambush at the Ebon Lake. Okay. Balance controller vibration feedback. Nice. Removed from several events throughout the game. Okay. Added footsteps and pickup sound effects to players picking up items with the controller. Looting's never sounded this good, although it sounds like you'll be caught more often. Learning a new alchemy recipe now triggers the correct audio feedback. Nice. VFX, visual effects. Spirit guardians now correctly cast light in the direction they are traveling. Ooh. Added some cinematic polish to Minthara's dialogue in the Goblin Camp. Very nice. Added glowy VFX tattoos, chests, hand orbs, and shots involving Mind Flayer players. Spoilers. In the end game dialogue with Gale. Fixed a candle in the Moonrise Towers missing its flame. The Silk Tomb condition and visual effect, as seen in the Phase Spider Matriarch fight, now apply correctly. That is a bummer. I just did that fight the other day, but I believe the Silk Tomb failed. Not sure. Don't remember being tombed, but yeah. Writing, all the way at the bottom. I snuck this in there at the bottom, along with all the epilogue stuff. Writing, a dead fisherman on the beach will no longer hint that you can find Shadowheart just ahead if you are, in fact, Shadowheart. Updated the Elemental Adept tooltip to clarify that it aids with attacks as well as spells. Named the tattoos in character creation. That's a nice touch. I gotta see what that is. Added an extra line for Halsin so he acknowledges an outcome where you resolve the Grove situation, but the goblin leaders weren't necessarily killed. Huh. Companions can now make additional comments when learning about Gale's Orb. Oh yeah, you're talking about Gale's Orb. Yeah, all right. Added overhead dialogues for player characters about the purpose of pentagrams in Cazador's ritual at the start of combat. Divine Strike weapon now shows the correct damage in its tooltip description. Nice. Fixed a missing subtitle for one of Gustal Stornugos's lines. Improved clarity in the Rescue the Tieflings quest journal when opening the Tiefling cells. Adjusted the text and get help from Healer Nettie subquest to point you towards your own crafting menu, not the central cauldron. Cinematics. Oh, there's a lot. Improved camera shots, mocap animations, character staging, and facial expressions in many dialogues across the game. Fixed pops, jitters, and clipping in many dialogues across the game. Added custom touches and polishes to many dialogues across the game. Many dialogues. This is one of the ones where it's big, but there's so much more in it. Fix some animation issues caused by Dragonborn armor and dialogues with Duragar. There are some odd issues with Dragonborn just because of the size. Adjusted some camera shots when talking to Isabel and Nightsong before or after you throw her out the window, you monsters. And Nightsong at camp after defeating Lorokan. Players will no longer rudely stare above Zaki's head in their dialogue in the Tiefling Kids hideout. Manners. Fix the Dark Urge's jittery writhing animation while tied up by a companion. How is that literally? I never know. Minthara's haughty stare will now correctly look at players she's talking to towards the end of the game. Fixed a pop on Mole and adjusted some camera shots and animations. Pop on Mole. Fixed a pop when talking to Uraj in Moonrise Towers and hid Astarian's helmet for when he bites you. Yeah. Fixed a quirky that was a thing, and that the helmet being in the place was weird. Fixed a quirky stair climbing animation during Dribbles' onstage show. Right, Dribbles. Fixed Red Hammer's hand clipping through his face. Awkward. I mean, why else is the hammer red? Amended the animations for Feel Humans, male Githyanki, female gnomes, and male and female dwarves when talking to Astarian while romancing him. So actually, a lot of the issues might have been race specific. Improved Astarian's ascendant route at will, gnome kiss for masculine body types. What does that mean? At will gnome kiss. Someone will know what that means and be very excited about it. Fix the player character not looking at Barkus correctly. Yes, saw that. Cleaned up some mocap in several scenes. Very nice. Fixed Shadowheart not correctly looking at you when talking to her before the Upper City Fountain battle. How rude. Improved lip contact and mocap for large and tall players when smooching Will. None of y'all complained about the Will romance. I got some love too. Good. Reduce the blue glare effect on the Displacer Beast in the Gauntlet of Shar. Okay. Displacer Beast. Not looking forward to that. Improved camera angles between Raphael and Lae'Zel and Raphael Shares's Caress Ultimatum scene. Fix the visual effects in Loricon Speak with Dead dialogue. Companion interjections will now correctly play during the spider meat scene in the Gauntlet of Shar. Don't usually talk about meat in the same context as a spider. We'll get to that. Polish the cinematics in Gale's default dialogues. Very nice. He had some weird lighting in a lot of the ones I saw. Adjusted and improved some animations when talking to Shadowheart. Very nice. The animation for the pig in Worms Crossing refugee camp no longer pops when he starts speaking a new line. Okay. We fixed the long, awkward pauses that followed each line of the one of the ghouls outside Moonrise Towers. I feel like a ghoul might speak slowly, but okay, good fix. The knife no longer disappears from the cinematic when removed from the mystery meat by a short character. Polished a dialogue with Mizora for male Dragonborn characters. Now that I am playing a male Dragonborn character and I have not run into Mizora yet, I'm very glad for that. Fixed lines cutting off early in Aelis's dialogue. Added some missing VFX for Thizabald Thorns Tankard. Thorms Tankard? That is difficult to say, y'all. Who picked that? Thorm. Just a long, big long thing on the end there. Thorm. Fixed an animation looping issue caused a pop on a dog's butt. They really got into the business here, y'all. This is at the end of the thing, but you know what? They were taking care of the little things. I haven't seen the dog's butt. Could be a big thing. Improved camera angles after combat with the bear and the goblins in the goblet camp. Improved the lip contact when kissing Minthara in the end game for large male humans and female Dragonborns. Dragonborns had a tough time with Minthara and Mizora. Yeah, different. Fix some bugs in the intimate scene with a drow and Sharess's caress. Bugs. Hopefully not literal. Fix some bugs. I mean, they are drow. So good. Anyway, fix some bugs when talking to Kled. Fix the camera clipping beneath the ground scene after defeating Cazador without Asterion there. Fix small jumps in animation in the NPC caught you trespassing dialogue. Oop. Polish the looping idle animation for dogs. Dogs got some real attention in this one. Fixed a cinematic issue that showed Cazador's prisoners walking through a closed door if you freed them. Fixed a rare issue where party members appeared in cinematic cutscenes in place of the expected NPCs. We just got to this whole thing and the last line. And many, many more fixes, improvements, tweaks, and labors of love. You know what, Larian? We all love you, but that is frustratingly vague. But whoever wrote this, whoever wrote all of this, all in a single list, deserves a medal and a bonus medal for not putting dad jokes everywhere. There's some real gems in there, but not all of them. You just made it through all of this, and this has been such a long video. We'll call it the end. Good luck out there. Enjoy patch 5. See you out there.